Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. Real quick, I want to apologize if I sound weird, if there are random cuts throughout the video. I am really sick right now. It's hard for me to even muster up the energy to record this, but I still want to get y'all some content. I want to talk about hoops. So here I am doing my best at the moment. Just want to put that out there real quick before we start. And today's video is going to be about the MVP race. This is something I've been meaning to talk about because it's been really fun so far. Coming into the season, I felt like it could be a great debate all throughout the year. You had your top candidates like Jokic, Embiid, Giannis. You had a lot of young and up-and-coming guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Luka Doncic and Jayson Tatum, perhaps, who could all force their way into the conversation. Some outside guys who seemed like they had chances, some established veterans who felt like if their teams are good enough, they could get back in MVP combos after being out for some years. It seemed like there was a great mix of potential contenders, and so far through the early going of the season, there's like 6 different guys that you could tell me, hey, he's my MVP right now, and I think you've got a pretty valid argument to make. It's been a fantastic race. I don't think it's slowing down anytime soon, and with how close the NBA feels right now, I think we're in for one of the best MVP races of all time. So today I want to break down some of the top candidates, talk about why they're in this race, and ultimately why this is just going to continue to be a fantastic debate all the way down until the end of the season. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Let's talk about the MVP race. First guy we got to talk about is Nikola Jokic. He was the favorite coming into the year after the Nuggets won the finals. He always puts up great stats, is always on a great team. It made a lot of sense that the Joker would probably end up taking home his 3rd MVP award at the end of this season. And so far he's been fantastic. The Nuggets are the 2 seed in the Western Conference, despite Jamal Murray missing a decent portion of the year so far, and he himself, after putting up 26, 15, and 10 on 75% shooting against Brooklyn this past game, is averaging 27.2 points per game, 12.7 rebounds, and 9.4 assists, very close to a triple-double average on a 60.5 true shooting percentage. He's been fantastic. The Nuggets have been really good again, with one of their best players missing some games, and Joker has been at the forefront of the whole thing. If you said right now that he was your MVP, I'm not going to argue with you, but some things that do take away from him at the moment, he's had a couple of bad games recently, and also the efficiency isn't quite what it usually is for the Joker. He's shooting right around 30% from 3 right now, which is not his typical number. He's had a couple of rough games as of late, and that's pushed him out of the favorite spot in most people's eyes in favor of some of these other guys we're going to talk about in a moment. But regardless, Jokic has been phenomenal. I think he's going to continue to put up great numbers. Anytime the Joker is actually playing, he's going to be a perennial MVP candidate, and more likely than not is going to be in the top 3 conversation with just his consistent output statistically, his impact on the team, and how good the Nuggets are going to continuously be in the standings. Also up there in contention is the guy that might be my MVP right now, and the guy that a lot of people said wrongly was awarded it last season in Joel Embiid. I was someone who believed that Embiid deserved his MVP last season, that he was the best player in the regular season, and hey, so far, Embiid might be the frontrunner for a back-to-back award. The Sixers right now are tied for the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference with Orlando, and he's been playing some of the best basketball of his career recently, despite the whole James Harden situation occurring to begin the year. Joel Embiid right now is putting up 33.8 points per game, 11.4 boards, and 6.3 assists, to go with 1.1 steals and 1.8 blocks on 63.7 true shooting percentage. He's improved almost entirely across the board since his MVP season last year, and a lot of the statistical production he's giving you is without often playing the 4th quarter. He set out the 4th quarter 7 times this season already, and he's putting up 35 points, 11.7 boards, and 6.7 assists in those games. He's very often dominating so much in those first 36 minutes that the Sixers don't even need him to show up for the last 12 because he's gotten them in such a comfortable spot that they're good, and he's doing this while anchoring a top 10 defense in Philly. The efficiency is great. It's been better than Jokic's this season. I really like the jump in playmaking we've seen from Joel Embiid. Nick Nurse has him in more of an offensive hub role, which is great to see. Again, 6.3 assists, which is his career high. Double-digit boards, almost 34 points per game. I wouldn't be surprised if that got even higher by the end of the season because it feels like he's just getting better and better as the year goes on. It felt impossible he'd get back-to-back nods because of the way the playoffs ended last year, and despite this being a regular season award, voters and the media really like to remember stuff like that, so it felt like Embiid might have to find playoff success before ever winning another MVP, but if he keeps playing like this, if the Sixers end up as a top 3 seed, it's going to be hard to say no to Joel Embiid getting a back-to-back MVP. Right now, I think he's probably my favorite. But he and Jokic aren't alone towards the top because Giannis is still trying to fight his way to another MVP award. These 3 guys have consistently finished in the top 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish top 3 again this year with how each of them are playing. Giannis right now has the Bucks as the 2 seed despite some struggles from Dame to begin the year efficiency-wise, and he's currently putting up 32 points per game, 10.8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 1.3 blocks on a 66.1 true shooting percentage. He's been incredibly efficient, and a lot of that is the fact that he's shooting 62.3% from the field, which is by far his career high. It's not even close. He's been even more of a dominant force than typical, which is a lot to say for a guy in Giannis who often feels like the most dominant interior guy since Shaq. He's dunking on players, he's getting right around defenders, attacking, Euro stepping to the rim. It feels like he can take 2 steps from half court, he's going to be at the basket. Giannis is one of the strongest interior presences we've really ever seen in the game, never mind in the modern era. And a great example of this was his game in Indiana where he broke the Bucks franchise record for scoring with a 60-piece. And a lot of that were free throws, which people like to talk about. But the reason he got so many free throws is because the Pacers were forced to hack him to prevent him from just dunking on their entire defense. There was no other way for them to stop him other than fouling him, which is very often the only way you're ever going to stop Giannis from scoring. He's looked Shaq-like at times this season, and he's doing his best to prop up a Bucks defense that really has no resistance on the perimeter. So very often he's trying to clean up their mistakes alongside Brook Lopez, and he's doing the best that he can despite the defensive issues, the struggles of Dame efficiency-wise. The Bucks have still been good, and a lot of that has been Giannis, who's trying to restake his claim as the best player in the world with what he's been doing so far. And again, if you have him as your MVP pick, I don't blame you whatsoever. But those top 3 candidates aren't alone. There are a lot of other candidates deep in this race, and one of them is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He finished top 5 in MVP voting last year, made All-NBA first team, and it seems like he's again making an All-NBA first team stake this season. He has the Thunder right now as the 3 seed despite being the 3rd youngest team in the NBA, and he's putting up 30.4 points per game, 5.5 boards, and 6.2 dimes to go with 2.8 steals, which is by far and away the league leading average. It's not even close at this point, and he's having a 64.1 true shooting percentage season, which is absurd, including the fact that he's shooting 55% from the field as a guard. His finishing is otherworldly. His mid-range jumper feels like it never misses. He's the focus of the defense constantly. He gets doubled a ton, and it really doesn't matter. He finds ways to score with ease all over the court. He's leveled up as a playmaker, as a defender, getting a ton of steals, dominating as a lengthy help defender. He genuinely has a claim right now to an all-defensive team if the season ended today. Oh, and he's also been incredibly clutch, like he's been over the past few years of his career. Shai really just does it all. If you want an MVP candidate who does everything and is extremely valuable to his team, I think Shai's got a pretty good stake as one of these top 5 contenders. Speaking of young guards, whenever you talk about the MVP race, you've got to mention Luka Doncic's name. Right now, he's got the Mavericks as the 4th seed in the Western Conference, and he's doing his typical dominant statistical thing, putting up 32.3 points per game, 8.1 rebounds, and 9.1 assists to go with 1.3 steals on a 61.4 true shooting percentage. It's typical Luka stuff, nearly a triple-double average, over 30 points per game on pretty solid efficiency. He's the definition of an offensive machine. He's putting up monster stat lines nightly. I mean, just over the past few games, 39, 6, and 13 versus the number 1 defense Minnesota Timberwolves, 33, 6, and 17 versus the Lakers. He had a 30-point triple-double in the first half alone against the Jazz the other day. He's got a headband, he's a dad now, and he's unstoppable. It feels like Luka is leveling up to another level, which didn't feel possible watching Luka over these past few seasons, but he just keeps getting better and better, and every time I watch Luka, it just feels like a matter of time until he eventually gets that MVP award. It's just going to take some more team success, and like I said, right now the Mavs are the 4 seed. They are dealing with a Kyrie injury, which ultimately may take them back a little bit, but if the Mavericks can find some team success and Luka keeps doing this, he's going to be right up there in MVP conversations. And again, the second the Mavs get a top 3 seed in the Western Conference, he'll probably win MVP. It's just a matter of time with him. One guy we've got to mention, as he's currently the best player on the best team in the league, is Jayson Tatum. Now, his numbers don't jump out as much as some of those other guys, but he's still putting up damn good numbers. 27.3 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, and 4.2 dimes on 60.9 true shooting percentage. It's not the 30-point near triple-double a lot of the other candidates are averaging, but those are really good stats, especially when you consider all the talent around him, the guys that are taking some shots away. He's been a good defender for this team. They're top 6 on both sides of the ball, and they feel like the best team in the league right now. If you want just the best player and the best team, Jayson Tatum is your MVP pick. I don't think he's going to get the love that a lot of these other candidates will because, again, the numbers aren't as crazy, and also he's just on a really good team with a number of other all-star caliber players, so I think that'll take away a little bit of his candidacy in the mind of some voters. But hey, I still think Jayson Tatum is a top 5-6 MVP candidate. What he's been doing so far this season has been really impressive, and I don't think how good his team is around him should take away from how good he's been individually. Right now, those 6 guys are probably my top 6, but part of the reason this race is so crazy is that there are a few more guys that I think could push their way into this race as the season goes on. It's a really long year. While they may be the favorites now, there's plenty of time for other players to push their way into this conversation. And one of those guys is Tyrese Haliburton. He built up a lot of stock through the in-season tournament. He's got the Pacers right now as the 5 seed, and most nights is absolutely carrying them. If you watch a Pacers game with and without Tyrese, you'll understand that just going strictly off the most valuable conversation, Tyrese is 100% in that conversation. He's putting up an absurd 26.1 points per game, 4.2 boards, and 12 assists on a 66.5 true shooting percentage. One of the league's most unstoppable offensive forces. He can score with the best of them highly efficiently. He's extremely clutch. Oh, and also, he's going to lead the league in assists this season. He creates pretty much all the offense for this team. That's a historically great offense. He nearly led them to a win in the first ever in-season tournament, just barely coming up short in that championship. And if the Pacers continue to climb up the standings, if Tyrese keeps putting up these ridiculous numbers, maybe Tyrese pushes his way to a top 5 finish in this race and makes things really interesting as a newcomer on this scene. You've also got his former teammate in De'Aaron Fox, who I believe isn't getting enough love in this race so far. He's got the Kings right now as the 5 seed, dropping 29.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 6.4 assists to go with 1.4 steals on a 58.6 true shooting percentage. He's playing absolutely out of his mind. He and SGA just dueled each with 40 pieces in the game as I'm recording this. It was an amazing battle to watch, and he's been one of the league's best fourth quarter scorers. He's building off last year's clutch player of the year, and again making a case for himself this season. The 3-point shooting has come along a ton from him. It's been by far his best 3-point shooting season ever. He continuously improves defensively. He's just all around one of the league's best guards at this point. I don't think Fox gets enough love for what he's been doing this season over there in Sacramento. Like I said, right now they're currently the 5 seed, but now that Fox has gotten healthy and some of their shooters are figuring it out, I could see them pushing themselves up the standings more and more. And hey, if they rise up to again be a 3-2 seed or something like that, Fox could potentially push his way into All-NBA first team conversations and maybe even some of the MVP talks later on in the year. That's how good he's been. Like, we continue to go down this list, and there are just so many guys who are having unbelievable seasons. It's hard to really comprehend how good the league is at this point. I truly feel like it's the most talented the league's ever been. All these guys, I believe, are legitimate candidates for MVP and can continue to push their ways into the race as the season goes on. It's ridiculous. There are a few more guys I want to mention before going and close this one out. One of them is LeBron James. The Lakers right now are the 6th seed. He's putting up 25.3 points per game, 7.5 boards, 6.7 assists, 1.5 steals on 63.6 true shooting percentage. It's one of the most efficient seasons of his career at nearly 39 years old. He's been one of the league's best late game players, dominating as the game gets close down the stretch. He's been the Lakers' best player despite, again, being about 39 years old, and he's got them as a top 6 seed despite a lot of the injuries they've went through throughout this season. They won the in-season tournament as well, which I guess, builds off his resume a little bit. I think LeBron is kind of an MVP candidate at this point. Now, it does hurt him a little bit that Anthony Davis is on his team and he's been one of the top frontrunners for DPOY, so I don't know if he ends up getting the consideration, but hey, in my opinion, LeBron so far has been good enough to be part of this race, and if the Lakers keep climbing the standings, maybe LeBron can push to be the oldest MVP ever. I think the Phoenix Suns duo of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker also deserves some love. They've both been playing at MVP levels. I think it's going to hurt that they're on the same team, of course. D-Book's putting up 28, 6, and 8. Durant is putting up one of his most efficient seasons ever, dropping 31, 6.5 boards, 5.6 dimes, and 1.2 blocks. They've both been phenomenal. The Suns team has dealt with injuries to one or the other in that duo, as well as Bradley Beal missing time, a number of their role players. They haven't gotten their full team on the court very often quite yet, but I think as time goes on, they're going to rise up the standings. I just don't think either of them will get true MVP love, although they've both been playing at an MVP level at the very least this season, which complicates this race even further. Also want to show some love real quick to the Timberwolves guys. They're the 1 seed in the Western Conference, so it makes sense that we talk about them a little bit, but I don't think Anthony Edwards or Gobert, who have been their best 2 players so far, really have the numbers to compete, and is putting up 23.6, 5.5, 5.2, and 1.2 on a 55.3 true shooting percentage. He's been really good, but I don't think the Wolves team success is enough to push him past the statistical gap between him and a lot of the other guys. Gobert's probably been the depoy so far, but he's putting up 13, 12.2, 1.2, and 2.4. It's not going to be enough to win an MVP. The Wolves just also have a lot of great players, like Cat's also probably been an all-star caliber player so far, so I think they're each going to take away from each other a little bit, but I had to talk about them because they have been the best team in the West so far. And all this is without even mentioning Kawhi Leonard, who's been really good as of late as the Clippers have started surging. Definitely want to get a video on them soon, but he's looking more and more like the Kawhi Leonard we're used to. Steph Curry's been phenomenal so far this season. The Warriors can't find any team success, but if they ever find their way back up into the playoffs, I think Steph Curry could get some MVP love. Donovan Mitchell has been fantastic as well, but again, the Cavs are kind of up and down right now. Jalen Brunson's been fantastic. If the Knicks could jump up the standings, maybe he could get into that that race. There have been so many guys so far this season that I believe have been worthy of MVP buzz, of MVP consideration, guys that I think could push their way into the conversation more and more as the season extends. It's been unbelievable so far. I can't remember a time where the race felt this wide open at this point in the season. Like I said earlier in the video, I think Embiid is probably my favorite, but there's so many guys you could talk about right now as your favorite, and I'm not going to be mad about it because the league feels so close. There's more parity, it feels like, than ever in the NBA, and I think that's a big reason why we're going to see a down-to-the-wire MVP race that could be one of the best of all time. I don't think many teams are going to run away in the standings. I think we see really close finishes all over the place. Statistically, everybody's putting up record numbers, so it's not like one guy who's dominating. It's 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys in each conference who are putting up these gaudy numbers that it didn't feel possible that you could see from them like a year ago. It's been amazing so far. Like I said earlier, I think the league is more talented than ever. We're seeing that unfold right now in the MVP race, and we're in for a historical finish, one that I think is going to lead to probably a controversial MVP finish if I had to guess. Last year I know it was kind of one. I think this year might be even more controversial. Like, again, we could see 5 candidates who all feel very deserving by the end of the year, and they're going to have to find a way to pick one guy. I don't know how they're going to manage to do that unless someone really pulls away, which I just don't expect to be the case. It's going to be a really fun MVP race going throughout the season. I've had a ton of fun with it so far. I'd love to know who your MVP is right now down below in the comments. Who do you think is going to win at the end of the season? And right now, who would be even your top 5 if you had to pick them? It's very difficult. I don't think I could do it right now, but I'm curious to hear if y'all have one at the moment. Right now, though, I appreciate y'all watching a lot. Again, thank you so much for sticking through this Why I Sound So Sick. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps the channel out a lot. Hit the notification bell as usual. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the videos. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say back.